966.
Richard, very good. A good one. My one big thing this week is Neom. Also, actually, kind of in that kind of northern Saudi region. And there's actually, Neom is something we've talked about or have at least mentioned in every single episode we've done of the 966, 86 episode. I'm pretty sure the word Neom is in every single one of them. And sometimes we just kind of mention it in passing. You know, sometimes we talk about it in detail. But this week there was kind of a lot of news on Neom, and I sort of wanted to, you know, you sent me today, Richard, this morning, an announcement, which I'll get to in 1 second, about a media partnership that Neom made, and it sort of made me think, okay, we're actually pretty far along in Neom's announcement. I mean, Neom was announced, let's just calibrate everything with a little key context here. Neom was announced on October 24th, 2017. And at the time, it sort of turned heads, even for a country known for big announcements and huge, ambitious plans. This was like the granddaddy of them all. And people were like, whoa, okay, $500 billion, located in a pretty remote region of the world, a remote region of Saudi Arabia in the Northwest. We're starting this, Saudi Arabia says, Neom from scratch. We're just going to build it. It's going to cost a lot of money. And it was widely covered when it was announced. I mean, there are all these mega projects and giga projects being announced in Saudi Arabia. This one was widely covered because it sort of was the most ambitious. Some would say ridiculous. I mean, it was a big announcement. And so I think that you just kind of reflecting on that, it doesn't seem like it was announced that long ago, but it was now 7 years, almost 6 years. So when you talk about Saudi Arabia, Richard, with other Americans who don't pay attention at all, even to the region, let alone Saudi Arabia, Neom actually is one of the questions, at least I get asked quite a bit, anecdotally. But, you know, they're saying, hey, oh yeah, Saudi Arabia, what's up with this mirrored city that's 100 miles long and is going to be green? What's going on? Is that, you know, is that going to happen? And that's usually the follow-up question. Are they going to do it? Is this happening? And then, you know, Richard, I would say that when it was first announced, you and I sort of looked at this, and I don't want to speak for you, but we sort of were like, you know, this is really expensive and this is cool, but maybe what they get out of this is something short of what they actually plan. And that's okay. I mean, it's really good to plan big and see where that takes you, because a lot of times that drags you forward. I think I probably would have started off saying probably, but just a little bit of it, or maybe, you know, 10 miles instead of 100. We still don't know. But the timeline for the implementation here was 2030, 2040, 2050, massive city of the future from scratch, remote part of the world. It's just not something you snap your fingers and do. Rome was not built in a day. That goes for Neom as well, especially, you know, even if you have this budget, you're still not going to do it. So Neom was announced, big announcement. You still had, and then you sort of had like, okay, this is the plan. What's next? And then you had this trickle out of details. And these details are not small details. They're large details, like a new airport, the line, which is, you know, 109 miles, mirrored city. You had Oxagon and Trojena. I think, Richard, the rig is sort of part of Neom. I'm not sure. It's in the Red Sea. I'm sure we're going to get a bunch of comments on this, but this, isn't it kind of near Neom, the rig theme park? Yeah.
Is that the thing that the refurbished, rethought out luxury thing, or entertainment thing on a rig?
Yeah, the like steampunked thing. I couldn't find a location.
Well, it seems like if it were offshore, it'd be in the Gulf. But,
yeah. Well, maybe that's right. Yeah.
But I don't know exactly where it is.
Well, so anyway, so you had these announcements coming out, and we talk about this a lot on the show, but these announcements were not just, hey, we're going to build this octagon shaped floating city. They were doing this with really well-produced Hollywood quality, beautiful videos with detailed renderings. They were sort of like hype videos, and they almost raised the stakes of what's going to happen. They said, no, this is going to look like this, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be all green, even down to the specific details. So over the last few years, Richard, we're getting this information about Neom, but you can't really see it. It's not like there's a like surf cam outside of the Neom area where you can look at it and you're like, oh, they're building that thing. Yep, it's coming along. Yeah. It's like, it's such a remote part of the world and no one can really go there, or at least tourists can't go there. So nobody's really seeing or checking in on what's happening. But as time goes on, Richard, we're sort of, you sent me today, and I'll mention this in a minute, but Neom partnered with Getty Images and another sort of startup website called Unsplash, a visual content creator and marketplace site, to create and distribute an extensive visual library showcasing Neom. So we're starting to see Neom a lot more. We're starting to see it in, the beauty of it. We're starting to see things that are under construction. We're also starting to see some of the areas around it that will be untouched and remained untouched. But yeah, I mean, I'm sort of going all over the place with this thing, Richard. But when it really hit me that Neom is not just going to happen, when it went from if to when, was actually when I met Jake Mum in Riyadh, right before he joined us on the podcast, and he talked about this on the show a little bit. He was essentially saying like, "Oh no, Neom and the line, it's not just going to happen. It's already happening. We are building it now. The spine in Neom, we're up there right now building it." And it sort of hit me like, "Whoa, you're right. This has been a few years now. Like we should start seeing some results." So you start seeing more social media posts, workers skiing briefly in Trojena, people taking boats up to Neom. So we're starting to see it take shape. And that's sort of where I now begin my one big thing. Sorry, again, I'm also long-winded today. Again, I'm sorry. But yeah, this week we sort of learned that for sure Neom is going to open to tourists in 2024. So we had that announcement with the partnership with Getty Images and Unsplash. We also had comments from Antoni Vives, who is Chief Urban Planning Officer at Neom. And he talked about Sindola Island, which is one of those islands that will be open first right off of Neom, that will be really nice, ultra luxe. So Richard, we'll have to do our annual offsite there.
With a golf course.
Yes, with a golf course. And by saying that, you've mentioned golf, including it in the episode and keeping the streak going. But he talked about, hey, this is happening. First physical showcase of Neom. It's opening in 2024. And so we've kind of got a lot of new art on Neom this week. We had this piece, which was in Al Arabia, so we could see some new renderings of Sindola Island, which again looks really, really, really cool. We have this launch of the website from Neom, sort of a partnership with Getty and Unsplash. And we also had the announcement, Richard, that we will be getting, Neom will have a lot of hotels. We're talking about, I saw the number here somewhere. I think I have it here.
The actual so you've got Sindola, you've got Oxagon, you've got Trojena, and you've got the line as the four major anchors. Or is this so hotels throughout all these?
Hotels throughout all of these. There was an announcement. I thought I had it in my notes here, but anyway, yeah. So there was an announcement this week that there will be something like, I don't want to get the number wrong because it's going to live up there forever, but there was an announcement of plan for hotels, and it was some massive number. Enormous. So yeah, so again, not my best one big thing here, but it's just sort of like, it kind of hit me that this is really going to happen and that it is happening. And as soon as next year, you're going to be able to go to Neom, you're going to be able to visit Sindola Island, and you'll be able to see it. I mean, you'll be able to see it being under construction, the main city, but you will be able to go to Sindola Island and kind of start experiencing what it's going to be like there. So yeah, Neom's happening. That's my one big thing.
Well, it's, I mean, a couple of things on that. No, number one, on that announcement back, you said in 2017, right, of Neom. Yeah, it should have been taken with a healthy dose of skepticism. And I think, skepticism continues to prevail. But, it's interesting because these pictures, and for those of you who listen to us via podcast, thank you very much. If you happen to look at the YouTube version of it, I'm sure you're going to include a lot of those pictures, Lucien, because they were made public. They're stunning.
They're stunning. Yep.
And the water, the land, the topography, the geology, all the nature, it's all really remarkable. And you can see why you can see how it'd be a great environment to try and do something like this. I also pair it in my own mind because they came out and I guess this speaks to me. In January this year, they came out with some footage about the construction. So actually the line and the Oxagon, and that's what I was really interested in, seeing how much dirt's been moved and what's gone up and that sort of thing, because it's just so enormous. But two thoughts. One is, you mentioned 2017 on Neom. What's even more remarkable is the line was announced January 2021. I mean, just over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so my guess is that it wasn't even part of the thinking. And when Neom was, they thought they'd come out and they'd do a futuristic city or something that was green and sustainable and so on, but that the line configuration and I think it's vertical gravity, or so whoever zero there's some design school that's informing the architecture and the design of the line. I don't think that was even in their thinking in 2017. Maybe it was, but nonetheless, it wasn't announced till 2021. So the line is moving along at an especially quick pace too, when you think it's just over 2 years for this enormous, breathtaking project. The other thing is Sindelar is like Sindelar is just made a dash up the back straight. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't even in the picture, and now it's going to be the first one out the gate next year.
Yeah, with the Four Seasons. I mean, you're right. All that happened so quickly.
Yeah, it was like, well, Cinderella, something's going to happen. And I think that was announced in the last 2 years at least. And now all of a sudden it's coming together. So it's interesting how that one has come out, again, come wide on the turn and is leading the pack right now in terms of getting, actually being executed and available for the public.
Mm-hmm. That takes a little pressure off of Neom too. They can say, look, you're going to visit, this is part of Neom, so you can come here and this is going to be finished. And then you'll be able to see that we're making progress. I just wanted to add, Richard, the figure that I saw was 150 hotels in the line. That's what they're shooting for.
Wow. When it's all done.
When it's all done. Yeah, that's a lot of hotels.
That's a lot of hotels. I hope that, and presumably they won't all be Lux, because, they have to cover all the ranges. But this also speaks to when you get down and look at stuff like this, and it makes perfect sense why Saudi Arabia has cut the OPEC, with Saudi urging and support, has cut production twice over the last 4 or 5 months in an effort to keep oil prices up. They can't afford a downturn. They've got tremendous commitments on the book. They've, as you say, these are lavishly promoted, and it's a significant part of their new identity. Vision 2030, these mega projects, giga projects, dynamic diplomatic role in the region. This is part of how they view themselves and how they want to change their world. And in order to do that, they need to have a steady and continued sufficient flow of revenue, and that means oil right now. Until the indeterminate future. So it's again, when you look at the scale of these projects and the amount of spending that is required to maintain them, and the excitement they engender in the Saudi population, which they want to sustain, they've got to keep oil prices up if they can.
But they're also hedging that bet by investing in renewables and green hydrogen, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and all this other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And their non-oil economy is coming up, and their non-oil revenues in terms of the budget are coming up. They're making progress, but they're not going to be. They have to play this string out for as long as possible in order to make the transition.